On a quiet morning, the city was breathing like it always had. People were waking up, opening shop shutters, making tea, planning ordinary days. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt dangerous. But beneath that calm surface, something deadly was waiting. Not a bomb, not a missile, not a war. Just a chain of ignored warnings, small mistakes, and decisions that were never meant to explode into history. What nobody expected was that within seconds this peaceful place would be erased from the map. A blast so powerful it would be heard hundreds of miles away, a shockwave that would rip buildings apart like paper, and a tragedy so massive that even today people still argue about who was truly responsible. This was the world's biggest non-nuclear explosion ever recorded, and the real story behind it is far more terrifying than the blast itself. The port had always been the heart of the city. Ships arrived daily, carrying fuel, chemicals, food, and machinery. To most residents, it was just another working harbor, noisy, crowded, and familiar. But years before the explosion, something dangerous had arrived quietly. No headlines, no emergency alerts, no public warning. Thousands of tons of highly reactive material were stored there. It wasn't hidden underground. It wasn't secured properly. It was sitting inside a warehouse that was never designed to hold something so unstable. Officials knew it was risky. Workers complained about strange smells. Security reports mentioned cracks in the building. Emails were sent. Files were forwarded. Meetings were postponed. And every time, the same thing happened. Nothing. The material stayed where it was, day after day, year after year. Families lived nearby. Children played in the streets. Hospitals operated just minutes away. Nobody told them how close they were to disaster. Then came that day. It started with smoke, thin at first, almost harmless looking. People at the port noticed a small fire inside the storage area. Firefighters were called. They arrived quickly, doing what they had been trained to do. But something felt wrong. Witnesses later said they heard popping sounds. Others described flashes of light inside the building. One firefighter reportedly radioed back, saying the fire didn't behave like a normal blaze. And then there was a pause. Just a few seconds. Enough time for people to raise their phones. Enough time for curiosity to overpower fear. That was the twist. Nobody survived unscathed. The first explosion hit like a warning shot. Windows shattered nearby. People screamed. Cars stopped mid-road. But before anyone could react, before anyone could run, the second blast arrived. It wasn't just loud, it was violent. A massive fireball rose into the sky, expanding faster than the eye could follow. The shockwave tore through the city at incredible speed, smashing buildings, flipping vehicles, and throwing human bodies through the air. In seconds, the skyline changed forever. Homes collapsed, hospitals were destroyed, entire neighborhoods vanished behind dust and debris. People miles away were knocked off their feet. Those recording the scene were slammed into walls. Some didn't even hear the explosion. The pressure alone crushed them. Seismographs thousands of kilometers away recorded the impact. The blast registered like an earthquake. This wasn't an accident anymore. This was a catastrophe on a global scale. When the dust began to settle, the true horror revealed itself. A crater sat where the warehouse once stood, deep, wide, filled with water from the nearby sea. Nothing remained of the building, no walls, no roof, no evidence that anything had ever existed there. Rescue teams rushed in, but chaos ruled the streets. Electricity was gone, communication lines were down, roads were blocked by debris. Hospitals that survived were overwhelmed within minutes.
Doctors treated patients in parking lots. Surgeries were performed without anesthesia. Blood shortages became critical almost immediately. And then came the numbers. Hundreds killed, thousands injured, hundreds of thousands left homeless. But numbers don't scream. Numbers don't cry. The real pain lived in the stories. Parents searching for children who never came home. Newly married couples separated forever. Firefighters who ran toward the danger and never returned. One survivor later said the city felt cursed. Another described the air as heavy with dust, blood, and silence. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. As investigators began digging, they found proof that this disaster was not sudden. It was delayed, preventable, ignored. Documents revealed that officials knew about the danger for years. Warnings had been sent, recommendations had been made, options were available. The material could have been removed, it could have been sold, it could have been safely destroyed. Instead, it was left to rot inside a fragile warehouse, exposed to heat, moisture, and negligence. Why? That question ignited public anger like never before. Protests erupted. People flooded the streets demanding accountability. Faces of the victims were held high on posters. The message was clear. This was not just an explosion. This was betrayal. Families demanded justice. Journalists uncovered layers of corruption. Officials blamed each other. Some resigned. Others denied responsibility. Many disappeared from public view entirely. Investigations were launched, then stalled. Judges were replaced. Cases were delayed. Years passed, and still no clear verdict. For the survivors, time didn't heal anything. Every loud sound triggered memories. Every anniversary reopened wounds. The port remained scarred. Buildings still carry cracks like frozen screams. And the crater stands as a reminder of what happens when power ignores responsibility. What makes this explosion the largest non-nuclear blast in history isn't just its physical force, it's the weight of everything that led to it. Human arrogance, bureaucratic laziness, and a system that valued convenience over lives. The tragedy didn't begin with fire, it began with silence. Silence in offices, silence in meetings, silence when action mattered most. And that silence killed a city. Today, memorials stand where laughter once lived. Names are carved into stone. Clocks are frozen at the exact moment the blast occurred. Time stopped there, and every visitor feels it. This disaster taught the world a brutal lesson, that destruction doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from neglect, from choices postponed, from warnings ignored, from people assuming tomorrow will always arrive. But here's the truth nobody can escape. Tomorrow is never guaranteed, and when danger is stored quietly behind closed doors, it doesn't knock before destroying everything in its path. This was the world's biggest non-nuclear explosion, not because of science, not because of technology, but because of human failure. And the question that still echoes through the ruins is simple. If everyone knew it was dangerous, why did nobody stop it?